Let her go, Jim. He's dead.
Hello, and welcome to Improv Autopsy. I'm your host, Stephen Cadwell. This is part 2 of my interview with reluctant improv guru Joe Whyte, wherein we talk about some more improv experiences he's had, and he'll answer my Proustian questionnaire. Find me on Patreon, where you can listen to some more great content from my interview with Joe, some of which had a little iffy audio because of my setup, but you can also hear us discuss stand-up, the current state of comedy, Joe's insights on voice acting and other industry talk, as well as how improv relates to acting. All great stuff, and all on Patreon soon, if not already, as bonus content you can access even at the free tier. You can get everything at the free tier, in fact. The others are just gratuities. Enough about the stuff you're missing over on Patreon. Here is part 2 of Joe Whyte's Improv Autopsy. Well, I don't know if this really fits in or not, but I do want to ask you, because this is something that I was just made aware of recently, and I think others too, because of a Conan segment. But were you connected with Quick Wits?
Yes. Yeah, I did a Quick Wits episode. I think I only did one, but all of my friends at the time were doing them on a regular basis. I think I only did one episode of Quick Wits.
And what was that experience like for you?
It was fine. Dave was cool. I like Dave Rosowski very much. Actually, my partner on my episode of Quick Wits was James Bailey. It was at the height of Impromptone's success. And yeah, James and I got asked to be on the show.
And my understanding is that that was sketch that was written to appear improvised.
For the most part, yes. I mean, it was pretty obvious that the improv was, there's no way that you could improv like that, the way it was written out. Certain of those things were, it was supposed to look like improv, but it wasn't.
And did you write your own stuff then, or did they have a writer's room that was writing the stuff?
We wrote our own. Yeah, that's the thing was everybody was supposed to write their own material.
Okay.
So everybody on the show was both a performer and a writer. So yeah, we wrote all of our own. I think there was a segment where they would show you a funny photograph and you had to come up with like 3 to 5 quotes.
Yeah.
For the photo, because they did a segment, and it was supposed to be improvised. It was supposed to be people making up funny things about the photograph right at that moment, which they could have done. I mean, if you get the right improv people, that would actually be a thing. But no, you got to see the picture well beforehand and make up funny stuff. Hopefully funny stuff. Wasn't always fun.
There's some snippets. I think there's might be one episode and then like a reel of some kind that we were able to find on YouTube, I think.
Really?
To watch some of it. But Dave Rosowski was in your episode as well?
No, he was not. He was one of the people running it. I forget.
Oh, I think he may have appeared on an episode.
He may have.
I think his name might be in the cast. And I also saw Dave Russell, who was artistic director at SAT Comedy Lab in Orlando, which is my home theater. And I've interviewed him, but I was unaware of Quick Wits at that point, so I didn't get to ask him about it. But he was on at least an episode.
Yeah. Wayne Brady, Frank Maciel, who was one of the funniest guys I've ever known. Frank was a guy from Comedy Sports. Ron West. I think Steve Carell was on an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Dan O'Connor, who is a friend of mine. Joe Liss was on it. Andy Matheny, good friend of mine, was one of the hosts of the show. Matt Gorley was on it. I don't know if you know Matt Gorley, but he works with Conan O'Brien now. He's one of Conan's producers.
I think he's the one that mentioned it on the segment, was talking about it with Conan.
Yeah, cool. Matt's amazing. One of the nicest guys on the planet. Yep, good times. Actually, what's the actor's name from Breaking Bad? And he played the lawyer, Bob Odenkirk. He and I look very much alike when we were in our 30s and 40s. And I looked enough like him when Bob was doing Mr. Show, was when I did my episode of Quick Wits. And for the show, I was still in makeup and stuff, and we were just coming from doing Quick Wits, and we went to this restaurant, and the waiter came up and said, "You are Bob Odenkirk." I said, "No, I know I look like him, but I'm not him." He said, "Yes, you are him. You are him from Mr. Show. Oh my gosh, I'm such a big fan of yours." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I get it. No, people have told me that I look like Bob, but I'm not him. I really am not." He said, "Yes, I bet you are him. I'll pay for your dinner if you are not Bob Odenkirk." So I showed him my driver's license, which obviously should. I got a free dinner because I look like Bob Odenkirk.
I think that's fair. You got a free dinner for not being Bob Odenkirk.
Yes. Right.
So I wonder how many he's gotten for being himself.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I'm such a fan. Oh God, I'm a fan of that guy. He is just freaking brilliant. Everything he's done. I have no idea what kind of person he. I've never met him, but yeah, huge fan of Bob's.
So when you flew out to headline Chicago Improv Festival,
Hmm.
had you been to Chicago before then?
We had been there as a group. We had played some other places, and I think I was there for a comedy sports. We had like a comedy sports World Series thing where all the groups from around the country came. I think I was there for that.
Okay.
But one thing that's really kind of embarrassing, and I actually got to tell Steve Carell this because I was working with a writer named Chris Wilkinson, and Chris had been contracted to write the Howard Cosell story. And Steve Carell and his production group were signed up. He was going to play Howard Cosell. So we got to go to Steve's offices a couple of times to pitch story ideas with him and got to meet, and I got to tell him this story. So it's 2000. It's before Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch have hit the big time, right? Of course, people who are in the Chicago improv scene know them.
Yeah.
And sketch comedy scene know who they are because they're killing it everywhere they go. We don't know who they are. We get there as the Impromptons. We get out of the van, and these two girls come out to welcome us, and we thought they were production assistants. We did not know they were who they were. Nobody told us. So we gave them our luggage and said, "Oh, great. Yeah, here's our stuff. You can put this where." They kind of look at us and they're like, "Oh, okay." And they did. I think they maybe politely called someone else to come over and take our luggage. But then that night at the show, of course, they get up on stage and just murder the entire theater. I mean, we're talking 1,500 people, and the two of them are the best thing since sliced bread. And we're like, oh God, what did we do? We were naive. We did not know the people of the Chicago community, the theater, improv, comedy community of Chicago. We didn't know because we weren't from there. I just, to this day, I wilt every time I think of that. And I've never talked to them since. I have not talked to either of them since. I don't know what they thought of us or if they even thought of us at all. I don't even know if that they would remember us from that show. But I mean, we killed. We actually did a show. I think we might only have done one, but we might have done two. And we got standing ovation. It was at the peak of the Impromptones' abilities. We were really doing well. We were doing good stuff. And so they may remember us or they may just go, oh, that was one of the other 50 improv groups that showed up for the festival,
Yeah, and thinking back at 30 Rock and other opportunities that SNL for Tina and Rachel both that they would have had to comment on or write a sketch about showing up and being handed luggage. I don't remember any where that happened, so I think that's a good sign.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh dear. The things we do without realizing it.
So I have a little Proustian questionnaire.
Oh, fun. No, it sounds good.
So these can apply to any part of your career that you wish, and I'll try to broaden them where I can, but some of them will be very improv related.
Okay.
How do you get into the proper headspace to perform?
Cheeseburger. It's a little ritual of mine. I like to have a cheeseburger before I go on stage. Don't ask me why, but it's just something that seems to put me in the right place. The other thing that gets me into the right frame of mind to do a show is knowing that I have to do a show. The fear that I have, the self-doubt, I gather all that stuff up into a big ball and I let it burn in my chest. I'm really being honest. I go on stage, I'm usually terrified, and it's not until I get on stage that I feel suddenly comfortable. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
I just let all that stuff ball up and I let it become energy. I take my nervousness and I try to channel it into some kind of focus, like taking chaos and focusing it into a laser beam. And that doesn't happen until I'm on stage, until I get a feel for the audience, until I look in the other performer's eyes and know that they're looking back at me through the same lens and they're scared, but I know they've got my back. This also goes to being on stage with the right people, because if you're on stage with people that you don't trust, then you're concentrating for other reasons. You're concentrating on, okay, how do I fix their fuck up? What am I going to do when they've got nothing?
Yeah.
And I have nothing, but I know that they're not going to try to save me. One of the great things about being on stage with Jeff Davis is he's one of those people who knows exactly what's happening on stage, knows what's going through your mind. And if you're stuck, he finds some way to kick you into gear, to say something, to take over the scene for a second and offer something, that gets you out of your rut and gets you back on track. He's one of the people that I trust 100% to be that person on stage for me. And I'm going to try to be the same thing for him. I'm constantly trying to read other people's minds and see where they're going, see if I know someone's wandering down a path that is not going to pay off. I can either move to action. If you don't know what you're doing on stage, move to action. Forget about saying something. Don't move to verbiosity. Don't move to script. Do something physical. Find a reason to go open a window. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a moment to adjust your socks. Maybe make a comment on something on the wall and walk over to it. Take a moment to explore something in the environment. That can give you a breather, a moment to refocus your ability to speak about what's going on. Thinking about stage picture. The thing that drives me crazy is when I see an improv show where two people end up standing next to each other on stage talking to each other.
Yeah.
Don't be talking heads. That's completely unwatchable. Unless you're frickin' brilliant. Unless you're saying stuff that is just hysterical, talking heads is going to kill you. Find reasons to act. Find reasons to move around the environment. That's going to open up a lot of space for you. Let the scene breathe. It doesn't have to be line, 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 line.
Yeah.
So that's a very long-winded way of saying that's how I get into the mood. I let my fear and my stage fright become the energy that propels me onto stage and gets me through those first moments until I start to feel confident. It's the first laughter that gives you confidence. Once you get that first laugh from the audience, okay, they're willing to laugh. Now I can just kind of relax and focus on what I do and focus on the other people. So let that nervous energy get you on stage with a big push.
Now, the cheeseburger, is that a particular cheeseburger or any cheeseburger?
Well, for a long time, when we were doing shows at the Cinegrill, which is on Hollywood Boulevard, right across the street from the Chinese theater, the Cinegrill. Great old-fashioned theater, and we did so many shows in there. But we used to go to this little restaurant. It was called Hamburger Hamlet. There were a couple of them around LA, and I think they're out of business now, but they had a cheeseburger that I would always have before doing a show at the Cinegrill. It just seemed to work. It was the right amount of cheese, the right kind of beef, and it just made me feel good about everything. And that and a couple of large Cokes before going on stage to keep the energy up. Not Coke. We didn't do Coke. Although back in the
Coca-Cola.
Cola, a couple of real Coca-Colas.
When you said you'd ball up the nervous energy and some of the woes of the day or whatever, and you'd let that burn in your chest, did you ever wonder if that wasn't maybe the cheeseburger?
It could have been the cheeseburger, right? I think actually the cheeseburger matter was ignited by the fear and the anxiety of going on stage, probably made it burn. Sort of like, Tony Stark's thing in his chest that gives him some power.
Yes.
That's probably it. And I was, so most of my comedy comes from indigestion, is basically what you're saying.
Use it.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite a favorite ask?
No, not really. I have unfavorite asks. The stuff that you get all the time. You get certain requests are just low-hanging fruit. And
Yeah.
as an improviser, you know this, you're going to get the same requests all the time. And so we actually got to a point where we would say, we get that all the time. Let's try something different. My favorite ask is something I've never heard before. If I'm doing improv, I want someone to yell out a situation or a type of character or a setup that I've never heard before. Because it's fresh ground, it's fresh snow. You get to go out there and pee your name in that snow for the first time. And that's what's exciting. Because for me, it's really about the improv. It's not about going out there and having a bunch of pat responses to improv cues that you hear over and over again and knowing, oh, if I say this to that, it's going to get a laugh. We fell into that in comedy sports a lot because we would do this game called 185, and it's 185 so-and-sos walk into a bar. Bartender says,
Yeah.
we don't serve so-and-sos, and the so-and-sos say X. Well, there were things like 185 dyslexics walk into a bra. There are some set jokes like that everybody in improv knows. But the audience doesn't know that everybody knows that. But sometimes someone at a show will say, hey, give us 185 whats. What are we looking for? And someone will yell out dyslexics. And inevitably, somebody on stage will walk up and go, 185 dyslexics walk into a bra. And it gets a laugh because it's funny. But you hear that over and over and over again. That's not improv. That's just rehashing old stuff that worked before.
Yeah.
And I don't have respect for people who rely on those things. Now, it's okay to say those things once in a while. Another circumstance is, and I've done this myself, what's a public event that you could say the perfect wrong thing to say at this event? What would that event be? And someone will yell out, a bar mitzvah. So you walk in as a delivery guy going, who ordered the ham? Oh, that's funny because it's Jewish and they don't eat ham, but there's a guy delivering a ham. Over and over, you see things like that.
Yeah.
And I myself have used that one and got a big laugh. You can actually see it. If you go to YouTube and look up Joe Whyte comedy, you'll see an old tape from the 90s of me with a little group called the Mensa Misfits, which was me, Jeff Davis, and Chris Dermick performing at the Ice House. And I actually used that joke, and it gets a big laugh. But if you're doing improv, you want to improvise stuff. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So my favorite ask is something that I've never heard before.
Thinking about it, I would say, obviously, at some point you'll get something that you've heard before shouted out to you.
All the time.
I would think that doing a scene gives you a little more leeway, or it's a little easier to do a scene you haven't done before versus if you're doing a song and someone shouts out the same thing. I would think it would be more difficult to be more varied, at least for me, because I'd be like, well, I've done all these rhymes, so the same rhymes are going to come into my head or the same. Is that true at all? Or would it be, not that you were going to look for it in either place, but if you get the same suggestion for a song, is it harder to do a different song than it would be to do a different scene?
I don't know that it's harder. There's an aspect of, there are things I've said before that I want to avoid. You've got that little bit of extra concentration if you're being honest.
Yeah.
If you're not being honest, then you'll go, oh, I have a good one for that. And sometimes that's what you have to do. Sometimes you're in a show and you're like, I need a laugh right now, and I know this is a good joke. I'll pull it out. But you try not to do that. And if you do it, try to do it in a fresh way.
Yeah.
Because the people on stage with you have heard that joke too, and they know the response. And if you pull it out, they're going to look at you like, oh, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You took the easy road that time. You don't want to do that too often because then you'll just get known for being someone who takes the easy road and you're not really improvising.
Right. Do you have a favorite way to elicit a suggestion?
Well, yeah, if you want to avoid those things, a lot of the times you can say, hey, what's a situation like astronaut or like wife and husband arguing about money? What's something like that? You can lead people away from those sort of pat, very well-known requests by saying them first. What's something like these things that you've heard a million times before?
Yeah.
So you want the audience to stretch a little bit too. When you're first starting out at improv, you haven't heard all these things. So everything is new, and that's a great place to be in because you're constantly being forced to come up with new stuff. Once you've done it for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, you've heard every gag in the business. So it becomes harder to actually improvise, and it becomes very easy just to lay back on stuff that you've done before that you know is funny. That's just being honest with yourself.
Yeah. My follow-up to that, I think you've already said it though, is what's your favorite way to burn a suggestion? Is it what you just said, just to use it in the question that you're asking the audience?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to flat out say, look, we get that all the time. I'm sorry, we get masturbating squirrel all the time, and we're going to make jokes about his nuts. Yes, blah, blah, blah. But what's something else? What's a different animal? What's an animal you very rarely hear about? You can do that. I have to be honest, when I've seen people in improv shows do that to the audience, it's a little bit of a turnoff to the audience. The audience member kind of feels shut down. So you have to do it in a fun, uplifting way that doesn't make the audience feel like they're stupid for having said something that you've done a million times.
Yeah.
You have to still respect them, and you can't just say, oh, Jesus, not that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You still have a responsibility to make the audience feel good.
Yeah. I like to be antagonistic with the audience.
Right, exactly. How to get them off my side is what I want.
I never want that ball of energy to stop burning in my chest.
Right, exactly.
How would you describe your onstage persona? Is onstage Joe different than everyday Joe?
Not that different. I think I try to be an everyman on stage. I'm really trying to leave myself open to becoming whatever the moment inspires. I think on stage Joe is much more likely to do characters. I don't do characters in real life very often. Once in a while I do, but one of the things I love about improv is being able to just instantaneously become an old wizard or become a grizzled fisherman or whatever, to suddenly take on those physical attributes.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. I love space work. I love working with the environment. I love those moments and scenes when there are no words being said. So I look for that a lot. And I think I just try to be a ball of clay on stage, really. I also try to match the energy of the other people on stage, not match it in a way that copies them, but matches in intensity or is a balance to the energy that's on stage. And that requires a lot of listening and a lot of paying attention to how the other actors are physically. Because if someone's on stage being super high energy and all that, maybe you want to be a contrast to them instead. Maybe you want to turn yourself into a slow moving fat blob of a character to have some kind of stage balance. So maybe my stage persona is attempting to be mercurial.
Yeah. I like it. And I know you said you don't often play characters in real life, but I did hear that one time that you did the impression of Bob Odenkirk to get a free meal.
Yeah, but that was for food, man. I'll do anything for a free meal.
What is it that inspires you on stage?
I guess it's engagement. The thing that inspires me on stage the most is when I know that the audience is engaged, when they're really listening, you're getting that vibe from them that they're completely with you. You have them, and the other actor is doing exactly what they should be doing, and you're doing what you should be doing. That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, for me, I lose myself on stage. I forget what I'm doing. I forget who I am and that I'm doing a part. Usually what I would do, my wife would come to the shows and I would have to ask her in the car, what did I do? What was that scene about? I lost myself in that scene. Well, that was a great scene. Yeah, but what did I do? Well, watch the videotape. I always have to watch the tapes afterwards. It's like having to go to the tapes after a basketball game or a football game to see exactly how the play went. Because you just, when you're in it, when you're really locked into the moment and you're really on the right energy with the other actors and the audience and it's all clicking, you go into this Satori state of mind where you're just reacting. You're not acting, you're not contemplating, how do I get out of this? What's the punchline? Where's the thing? Where's the this? It's just flowing naturally. When you reach that state, it's bliss. It's really a kind of a nirvana. It's that state of no mind that is, for me, the bliss of being an actor, really. There are scripted shows that I've been in where you reach that stage where you're just so in the character. You come off stage and you go, where was I just now? I don't remember what I did. Nothing like that feeling. It's amazing.
Yeah. Is there anything that shuts you down or takes you out of it on stage?
Yeah, another person on stage who's not listening to you.
Yeah.
One night I was doing a comedy sports show and I went out on stage to start the scene and I was in a laundromat. So I'm loading clothing into a laundry machine and putting the soap in and using quarters to get the stuff out of the little thing and going over and put it. I set up this entire laundromat and the person who came out on stage after me came out with a fishing line and said, "Hey, how's the salmon today?" Completely destroying the reality that I had just made up.
Yeah.
My heart just fell out of my body. All the space work that I had done was for naught. The person obviously wasn't watching me. They weren't listening to anything I was doing. And they just came out and denied my reality entirely. And that, to me, is the biggest disrespect you can pay other actors. If you're an improviser and you work that way, you're a piece of shit in my mind. You have one job as an improviser. That's to listen to what's going on stage. To know what's going on stage and to come in with something to add to that. That's your only job.
Yeah.
And if you fail at that, you have failed entirely. That's a really big turnoff to me doing an improv show.
You may have already answered this, but in your estimation, what makes a good scene partner?
Just that, listening.
Yeah.
Someone who really listens to what you're saying and someone who doesn't have an obvious agenda.
Yeah.
You can come out on stage with an agenda. Here are the ideas that I have, and I'm going to present them in a way that they will either be accepted or denied. If my partner is really listening to what I'm doing will inform and suggest appropriate responses with them if they're paying attention. A lot of the times, improvisers come on stage with a joke in mind.
Yep.
They've thought of something funny and they're going to get it out there regardless of what it takes. So they will manipulate a scene to get to a point where it's appropriate for them to say their joke. That is not generous improv.
Yeah.
It's really about the both of you finding the essence of the scene together. It's an exploration. Actually, there are leaders and followers, but it switches back and forth. One person leads the scene for a second, then the other person leads it, and hopefully it turns into a balance. So my favorite person to improvise with is someone who can do that, someone who doesn't have their own agenda in an overwhelming way and is willing to listen to my agenda and do everything I want to do. No, I'm kidding. And because that's what I'm trying to be. I'm going out on stage and every moment I'm looking at how they're reacting. What are they saying? What are they setting up? Did that person just throw me a lob? Sometimes someone will say something and they know they're setting you up for a punchline. If you're not listening, you're going to miss that.
Yeah.
And the audience is going to see it. Sometimes the audience is in their brains, they're thinking, oh, he should say this at that moment. It's an obvious response to what that other person said. If you're not listening to what that person said, you could miss it. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of who I'm looking for.
Do you have any advice that you'd give your younger self?
Oh, boy, that's a hard question. Because, yeah, of course. I think to myself, I would probably say, don't be so sensitive. Stop being such a dweeb. Stop taking everything so personally. Because I did. When I was younger, I took everything personally. It's very sensitive. I'm an empath. I feel, at least I imagine that I feel what other people are feeling.
Yeah.
And it can affect my mood really badly. I mean, it's such an impersonal business. It's personal and impersonal at the same time. It's personal in that it is really about who you are. If you're not an entertaining person, if you're not a funny person, you're not going to make it as a performer. Some people just have that gene, some people don't. I would also say be more accepting of criticism in a healthy way. Take criticism with a big block of salt, listen to it, try to understand it from that person's point of view, and try to apply it to yourself in a healthy way instead of just going, well, that's it, I suck. They had criticism of me, therefore I'm not doing the job and I must just be horrible. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Don't be that person. Even the harshest criticism has some nugget of truth in it that you can find without thrusting yourself down into a 6-foot hole and suffering death of the ego at every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I would just try to tell myself, to be a little bit more of a emotionally strong person back then. I certainly wouldn't have quit. I would, if I could go back now at the end of the Impromptones debacle and the Newtonics, I would not have quit. I would have sucked it up, been a stronger person, and created something new for myself.
In being so empathic, do you find that it's still something you struggle with, or do you think you have a good handle on that? You can talk yourself down now.
I still struggle with it, but I'm aware of it now. Therapy has helped a lot, which the great thing about therapy is it can show you who you really are. And it gives you the tools to maybe not to change who you really are, but at least to deal with that on an unemotional level. Therapy gives you tools with which to deal with the things that would normally shut you down and keep moving forward. Because when you stop moving forward, you essentially die.
Yeah.
Then you're just waiting for your next meal and trying to figure out what show to watch until you pass away from this earth, and you have no more opportunities to do anything. You got to keep those opportunities coming. And like I said before, you've got to create those opportunities yourself. Just because the Impromptones shut down didn't mean that I had to shut down. I did because that's who I was at that time. I was not strong enough to say, well, that ended. Let's go make something new. It just destroyed me and took the wind out of my sails in a way that I was able to say, well, I have this great life over here doing animation, so I'm just going to forget this other part of me, which was such an important part of me. Being an artist, being an actor, being a comedian, hearing audience laughter was a huge part of who I was and am. And I should not have let that situation take that away from me. And I'm sorry that I did. I lost many years of what could have been very satisfying performing years because I took myself out of the equation. I shouldn't have done that. I'm a dick.
I wouldn't go that far.
We just met. I'm mostly a dick to myself, but
I'm glad you said that, though, because I didn't know how to segue to my next question, which was completely different. Do you have a favorite type of character to play?
I like to do extreme characters. I like the fishing boat captain from Jaws.
Yeah.
I like to do characters that really, if you got into their backstory, it would just be crazy. It would be a Herman Melville novel. It would be Moby Dick. It would be characters with really fucked up lifetimes. Someone who was a prisoner on a tropical island for years. Just people with really messed up backgrounds, I think, are fun to play. Bad guys are fun to play. Bad guys don't think they're bad guys. They think they're doing everything
Right.
for the right reasons. So it's really fun to play a bad guy who is doing the most heinous things for all the right reasons. They just think they're the best things in sliced bread. But yeah, I would say extreme. And I'm very physical, so I like to do physical characters. Hunchbacks, people with peg legs.
Is what's drawing you toward wizards your belief that all wizards have crazy backgrounds?
Yes, exactly. Exactly true. Come on, you don't get to be a wizard without going through some seriously weird shit.
So your ideal character at this point in your life would be a hunchback, peg leg wizard
Yes,
who was in prison on an island for a while.
exactly.
If that's not a three-dimensional character, I don't know what is.
Right. I'm writing that script tonight. Create that. I'm gonna have my own YouTube page devoted to the.
If you could do a scene with anyone alive, who would it be?
Oof. So many people I would love to do a scene with. Ricky Gervais, I would love to do a scene with him.
Yeah.
Everything that he does. I mean, have you seen the series Extras?
Yes.
If I could go back in time, I would pay money to be on that show. That was absolutely hysterical. I mean, just everything he does. I love his sense of humor and the people who perform with him. Oh, also, I love the guys from Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
Jermaine Clement is one of my favorite actors and comedians, and I think doing a scene with him would be amazing.
Yes.
In terms of pure acting, if I wasn't talking about improv or doing comedy, Robert De Niro is my favorite actor. I would do anything to be in a movie with him. You know, if it was the smallest of scenes. Watch the movie Ronin. His performance in Ronin, I think, is one of the best ever. And probably my all-time favorite that I would consider my life done if I got to do a scene with would be Robin Williams.
Okay, well, that kind of answers my next question, because it was going to be if you could do a scene with anyone who's gone on in the pantheon of people who have been here before us, who would it be?
Yeah, it would be Robin. I have friends who knew him. I never got to meet him. And, you know, I had posters of the guy up on my walls when I was a teenager. When Robin passed, that was a big shock to my life. He represented the freedom to do whatever you want to do more than any other actor I've ever seen. You know, he was just so, in his comedy, he was unbridled. And in his acting, he brought so much juice to every character. His performance in Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite performances of all time, of any actor.
Yeah.
He had one moment where he looks at Matt Damon and says, "If you ever bring her up again, I will end you." That moment, I thoroughly believed that Robin was that person in that moment when I watched that. But it's funny that some of our greatest comedians are also some of our greatest dramatic actors.
Yeah.
Robin just became those characters. And I think that that also says a lot about improv and what it does to you as an actor. It gives you the permission to become anything at any moment.
Yeah. Improv in a lot of ways removes that self-judgment of the I can't do that. That's
Yeah,
not me.
right,
And
yeah.
and once that's gone, it opens so many doors.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe you can't do it the way another actor did it, but you can do anything your way.
Yeah. If you could do a scene with anyone fictional, who would it be?
Gandalf. Because we could be battling wizards. I could play his younger self. You shall not pass.
You look identical. The only difference is the hunch.
Right, exactly. And the peg leg
Yeah.
and one eye. Yeah. And my nickname is Lucky.
Lucky the Wizard. It's
Yeah,
good. It's good.
exactly.
What is the most helpful from the booth?
Oh, you know, I don't want them to step on a scene with too many effects. That's okay once in a while. And the person in the booth needs to be listening and responding to what's going on stage as well. If they're going to do anything other than lights up and lights down.
Yeah.
If they're doing lights down, they really need to listen for a punchline. Now, a really good booth operator will hear a punchline and not bring the lights down if they know there's a better punchline coming. And they'll give the people on stage the chance to get to that better punchline. That takes someone who also is an improviser and can see the setup and really is performing the lights as part of the scene. They're just as much a part of the scene as the people on stage. Now, if it's someone who actually has special effects like special lighting or a spotlight or smoke or other effects, which is rare to see in an improv show. In fact, I've never seen anybody do smoke or an actual spotlight in an improv show. It's usually just lights up and lights down.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you'll do something where they'll dim the lights a little bit. I mean, sometimes if you're playing a lounge singer, you might tell the person working the lights can you bring the lights down a little bit? And they either will or won't if they're listening or not. So if you're in the booth and you're doing lights for a scene, you're part of the scene. And that person needs to know that they are just as important and have just as much of an effect on how that scene ends effectively as the people on stage do.
Yeah.
If a big, perfect scene-ending punchline comes and the lights don't go out, and it's very obvious that the scene is done, then what's left is for the actors to waffle on stage, trying to find something else until the lights come down. There's a moment when the scene is done, and that's when the lights should come down.
Yes.
Do they hit it all the time? No, nobody hits it 100% of the time. But when you do, that's a valid part of the scene.
Yeah.
You brought the lights down at the right moment. And it makes the audience laugh even more because they hear that punchline and they go, oh, see, in their brains, they're thinking, oh, that's it, it's over. And when the lights come down, they're justified, their comedic sensibilities are justified, and they think, that's what I would have done. That's the best thing for an audience member to say to themselves is, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Or I wish I had said that. That's the best thing.
Other than laughter, what audience sound do you revel in?
Probably indigestion. No, really laughter. Nothing makes me happier than to hear an audience laugh. To know that something you said was intelligent enough and said in a way that elicits laughter from an audience. There's no better feeling than that. And I think that that goes to a personal problem that I have, is that I think that comedy should be intelligent, that the best comedians are the smartest people in the room. So egotistically, when I get a laugh, I feel like I've just done something smart.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good. That gives me a little serotonin burst.
Do you quantify the laughs at all? Are there some laughs that you like more than other laughs?
I like real laughs. You can tell when people are laughing nervously or almost apologetically.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you get a real legitimate guffaw, when someone blows milk out their nose, you nailed it. I want people to cough up food and fall on the floor laughing. That's the best kind of laughter. That uncontrollable, oh, my cheeks hurt kind of laughing. I remember the first time I went and saw Eddie Izzard, it was at the theater in Hollywood that's no longer there. Eddie Izzard was just beginning to get known, and she got up and did, I think it was 3.5 hours of stand-up.
Wow.
And all of it. I mean, my stomach hurt. My face hurt. It was 3.5 hours of nonstop, hardcore belly laughs. I had never laughed that hard at a show. And I had never known another comedian who had the genius, the intelligence to do that, because her comedy is based on history and philosophy and mathematics and languages. And it's extremely intelligent humor. And for someone to get up and do that for 3.5 hours, and all of it was funny.
Yeah.
My God, what a gift.
Well, I mean, if no one was laughing, it would have been an hour and a half.
Yeah, probably. She is still one of my all-time heroes.
Yeah. Joe, what is the worst venue you've ever played?
Oh, man, there have been a few. It's always uncomfortable when the cast outnumbers the audience.
Yes.
Done a few shows where there were 8 people in the cast and 2 people in the audience. And you do those. I am not a big fan of saying, well, there's only 3 people, let's cancel the show. Do a show. Why not? Do it as a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Shows that I've done for 2-3 people have been fantastic shows that I was happy that I did. So there are no small shows, only small actors, I suppose. But I've been in a few venues that were just little holes in the wall and not set up well with shitty sound and bad lighting. But it was still an opportunity to do a show. I think one of the worst theaters that I have ever performed in was the Bad Dog Comedy Theater in Austin. Not because it was a bad theater. It was an amazing theater. It was all brand new, built out, great stage lighting package, beautiful stage, great sound package. But they hired us to do shows as the Newtonics. They hired us to do shows without telling us that they were going bankrupt. And they got us there. And we did, I think it was 5 shows for them before being told that they couldn't afford to pay us. And that was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
We had to sue them to get back whatever money we could from their bankruptcy. So, yeah, it wasn't the theater. It was the people that were shitty.
Yeah.
And we loved playing there, too. Austin, first of all, is a great town for comedy.
Yeah.
And the Bad Dog Comedy Theater, which I don't know if the theater itself is still there and called something else, but the theater itself was amazing. It had a great bar. It was all set. I mean, it was really set up nicely. And these people just screwed it by mismanaging everything and running it into the ground and being shitty to their clients, being shitty to the people who did shows there.
Yeah, the theaters or bookers, they can get reputations too.
Oh, absolutely. We never would do anything with these people ever again. I remember who they were.
Yeah.
And they're still out there. They're still out there doing shows with other people.
Stealing their money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they did. They knew they were going bankrupt. They knew they couldn't afford to pay after they told us, oh, yeah, we'd like to pay you up front, but can you just go ahead and pay for your airfare and your hotel rooms, and we'll pay you after we do the shows and all that stuff? Oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. Yeah, no problem. Oh, by the way, you've done all the shows now, but we're going bankrupt and we can't pay you. Thanks very much. Be careful, kids. Anybody of the 7 of you listening to this, these people are still out there. These circumstances, be very careful who you get into bed with.
Yeah. Do your research, especially if you're headed to Austin.
Right.
Other than those, what are the best words of wisdom you've ever received, or best note?
Find the truth. Find the truth in whatever it is you're doing. If you're going to play a character, try to find something true, something that really resonates with something in you that is real, some aspect of your personality that equates to what you're trying to do. Because nothing is worse than a false performance. Nothing is worse than a performance you can see through.
Yeah.
And I say this to this day. When I see a performance, when I can see an actor acting, I call it out. I can see your technique right there. I saw exactly what you did. I know exactly which Meisner class that phrase came from. I know exactly how you got to where you are, and you're not being honest. And I think that that's the essence of what we're trying to get to here. Even when you're doing the wackiest, craziest character, you're still trying to find something honest that resonates on that level.
Yeah.
Because everything else is just artifice. Everything else is just sprinkles on a donut. It's not the meat. It's not the core of what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do as performers and writers and singers and musicians and filmmakers, what we're trying to do is communicate. And you can't communicate falsehoods. The lies are too easy to see through. And if you're that person, if you're in this for all the wrong reasons, if you are trying to perform because you want fame, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And it shows. People know when you're real and when you're not. And if you're not being real and honest with your audience, then you're not being real or honest with yourself. And the performance is not worth watching.
I think that's at the core of what you were talking about earlier, too, in terms of repeating bits or
Yeah.
getting suggestions you've done before and replaying scenes, is because it's no longer honest.
Exactly right. Exactly right. It's no longer, at the very least, an honest effort.
Right. What's the least helpful note you've received? And if you haven't really received one, what's the least helpful note you can conceive of?
Oh, I just watched an interview with Hannah Waddingham where she says that one of the audition notes that she hates is when they say, okay, let's do another one. And this time, just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. What the fuck does that mean? Just have fun with it. What do you want? What are you looking for? What do you want me to do that you think I'm going to spontaneously do if you tell me to just have fun with it?
Yeah.
Do you want more heart? Do you want more smile? Is it funnier, faster, slower paced? What are you looking for? Don't throw some words out there that can mean anything and expect me to put them together in the vision that you want to see, especially if there's time and if you're doing a shoot and you've got so many hours during the day to get the shoot done and you're trying to hurry. Get to the point fast. That's my other favorite piece of advice. Get to the point. Get rid of the dross. Get rid of the fluff. If you're telling a story, get to the point. Cut all the other stuff out because we don't need it.
Yeah. So do you think the correct interpretation of the request to just have fun, whether you're on stage or whether you're in the recording booth or whatever, is that an indication that whoever's making that request doesn't know
what they want?
Doesn't know what they want or doesn't know what they're talking about?
They don't know what they want and they want you to show it to them.
Yeah.
And then they'll take credit for it. You know?
Right.
It's just a bad note. And the other bad note is, can you make it funnier? Yeah, maybe. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what maybe your writers should have made it. I don't know.
Right. Am I going to get a writing credit?
Yeah, exactly. No. Well,
if there were an Academy Awards for everything improv, what would you be nominated for?
Space work.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I think that's my strong suit. I think that actually goes hand in hand with me being a 3D modeler.
Yeah.
Because I make 3-dimensional environments in my head, and then I make them real by modeling them. So I spend a lot of time in 3D space. Since I was a little kid, it was really natural for me to make up what is inside the space that we're performing in my head. I'm very good at space work and imagining volumes. There's an old game we used to play in high school called Gudge. And it was just, you take a lump of imaginary clay in your hands and you make something out of it. You make a cucumber out of it. And then you hand that to another person and they take that lump of gudge and they shape something else. And it's all how intricately can that person see what you're holding in your hands and add to it or take away from it. So those two things really go hand in hand. But I think that would be it. I think space work would be my forte.
2 tiny little follow-ups. I think that Gudge is your evil wizard name.
Right. No, that's his comical animal sidekick. Come on, Gudge.
Yes, yes.
We've got to go slay the dragon. Oh, Gudge. Now you stop it. You're being a bad boy. Now don't talk back to me.
And the wizard can form Gudge then into whatever is needed for him
Yes.
in that moment. And then, since you are a very visual person in that way, spatially, do you have any pet peeves with object work that you see other people do or spatial work that you see other people do?
Yeah, starting something and then forgetting where it is.
Yeah.
Going out on stage and starting like using a sink and then forgetting that the sink is there and walking right through it and going to something else. Or forgetting that you're holding on, like you're walking through a cave and you're holding a torch that's lit with fire. Then they turn around and suddenly their hands are doing something else and the torch has been forgotten. And that's important. If you set up a scene, if you set up an environment, you have to remember where everything is. There are a lot of exercises you can do to enhance your awareness of the environment that you've built. But if you set up a counter at a drugstore and you're talking to the guy and all of a sudden the guy walks through the counter, that destroys that illusion.
Yeah.
Then not only have you fucked the scene, you fucked the other actor, because then they have to come up with some reason for you to be able to walk through. Like maybe they reach over and close the gate so that you can't walk through it again, making a joke. Again, that can be funny sometimes. I'll give you an example. One of the funniest things I ever did on stage in a comedy sports show, I set up the fact that there was a car. It was a man and a wife having an argument. And I set up the fact that there was a car on stage. I went around the car, got in the driver's side door, did the impression of opening the door, going in, sitting down, grabbing the steering wheel. And the person who was on stage with me wasn't paying attention and came over and started berating my character on stage from what would be where the passenger side window of the car was. So I just let her rant. She went on for 30 seconds with this rant. And then I'm thinking to myself, she has no idea that I'm in a car right now. So when she was done ranting, I reached over and rolled down the window, the imaginary window, and the place fell apart. I mean, it just, I opened the window and I said, "What?" And, it all became obvious that she had been ignoring the car the entire time. And it was hysterical. The place fell apart.
Yeah.
She fell to the floor laughing. The audience was in hysterics. I got out of the car, went over, helped her up, got her back in the car, and it became a real funny moment. But it's that kind of thing that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
She wasn't paying attention. She did not know I was in a car.
I taught some classes down in Orlando, so it's from, I think, working with the students. But when there's a bookcase, more often than not, they end up putting it on the back wall for some reason. I think it's because that's a solid wall.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right.
They think, oh, a bookcase would be against this wall. You don't put a bookcase in the middle of anything. But it's like, well, no, there's a wall there. You just can't see it. It's okay to put that bookcase on the side of the audience.
And the big thing to know is the most important wall for you to hang stuff on is the front wall, is the wall facing the audience.
Yes.
They want you to use that wall. That's bringing the audience into the room when you do that. You're making them a part of the set, and they love that.
Yeah. And you're not going to block them with that portrait or whatever. They can see through it because it's not real.
Right, exactly. But they love to know that it's there.
Yeah.
And the more complex you can make your stage and remember it, when you remember that there's a pedestal with a statue standing on it right at that one spot, and you don't walk through it without acknowledging it. If you do walk through it and knock it over and acknowledge the fact that you just knocked over the statue, that's a totally different thing. But setting up stuff on stage and then ignoring it or forgetting where it is, that to me is a huge turnoff.
Yeah.
That to me is what smacks of amateurism.
Yeah. If you're remembered 100 years from now for something performance related, what would you like it to be?
I would like it to be a feature film that was a film that had a lot of heart and some really funny moments, but mostly a drama. Something like Good Will Hunting, something of that ilk. I would like to be known for doing that kind of a performance. Now, here's the weird thing. I've never done anything like that. I am still trying. I'm still auditioning. I will be an actor till the day I die. I'm retiring this year from the animation industry, but that's a totally different thing. That's a job that I did, and I feel like I got a lot of artistic satiation from that for 30 years now, and have certainly met people who I not only love, but are like family to me, my co-workers, a lot of them, especially the people I met at Disney during the 16 years that I was there. But my biggest desire is to be in a really good movie. Doesn't have to be a big movie, doesn't have to be a big money movie, doesn't have to have Brad Pitt or any other big stars. It just has to be a good, well-made movie with good cinematography and a great story.
Yeah.
That's my desire. And to that end, I'm still writing my own scripts. I'm working with one of my best friends, Jesse Davey, who is a director, wonderful director, and world-class blues guitar player. He and I have desires to make films, and we're working on stuff. So, who knows? Maybe that dream will come true. In terms of what I've done, what I would like to be remembered for is just my contribution to the arts. I'd like to be remembered as someone who worked on a few great movies. I mean, if you look at my IMDb page, I have had a small hand as a modeler in some great Disney movies and some other movies that were not quite as good. But when I came to the animation industry in 94, I wasn't an artist. I'd never went to art school. I never had any aspirations to be an artist because I didn't think I was good enough. And I started working at Disney as a production assistant and then as an operations coordinator. And during that time, I saw someone modeling the bell tower from Hunchback of Notre Dame. I was fascinated. And I said, how do you do that? What is this 3D modeling thing? And he said, well, I'll teach you. So they gave me an account and I went through the Alias Power Animator tutorial book and taught myself how to be a modeler. And fortunately, it was the right time at the right place. There weren't a lot of 3D modelers in the world because 3D modeling had just kind of become a thing. Toy Story 1 had just come out. It was only just starting. So it was a time when you could be someone who didn't go to art school, but if you knew how to model, you could get in and then you could train on the job. They don't do that anymore because now there's a glut of modelers are a dime a dozen because every high school and college in the country has a 3D arts program. They didn't have that back then. So I was very lucky. I backed into a career that lasted me 30 years that I had never foresaw that coming. Certainly didn't work toward it because I didn't know it existed. I didn't know the possibility existed. That's another thing about working in this industry. You get into the entertainment industry for one reason, and very rarely does your path lead in a straight path right toward that thing. It'll take you in 100 different directions. You'll have opportunities to do all kinds of different stuff, and never turn your back on those opportunities. You never know, you might end up having a 30-year career in something that you love, you end up loving, like I do modeling. And I still do it. I will always do it. It's part of my retirement plan now is to model stuff and sell it because I do 3D printing. A lot of the stuff that I do right now is inspired by Resident Evil. I do Chris Redfield's Survival Knife. I do a full-size 3D printed model of that and some other stuff. So all of my experience for those 30 years of being a modeler are now going to carry me through my retirement as something that I can do for money while I pursue continuing to be an actor. The other half of my life has always been, I just want to bring good stories to people. I just want to tell stories to people that make them consider their life in other ways, that make them consider possibilities that they wouldn't otherwise consider as being possible for them. That's what stories do. Stories give us ideas about other things that we can do.
Absolutely.
I've always had this image in my head of the nature of story beginning with cavemen. A bunch of cavemen would go out on a hunt and they would come back and tell a story around the fire about how the hunt went. And not only did that serve to entertain the rest of the cavemen, but it also taught the other cavemen and women how to go out and have their own hunt or whatever the thing was. Art entertains and informs, and it also shows you possibilities that you wouldn't otherwise think about. And I think that's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do for people. And I want to be a wizard. So that's...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I also noticed that your answer wasn't Steamy Monday, but...
Right. I want to be known for Steamy Monday. Steamy Monday. Steamy Monday. It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's about the connection with human beings.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, as improvisers and anyone that's gone on tour really with any show, it doesn't have to necessarily be improv, but with your voice work as well, that there are so many lives that you've touched and influenced that you will never know.
Mm-hmm.
People you've met, people you will never meet that have been influenced and has influenced the trajectory of their lives because of what you've done.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. Even in broader life, you never know what little ripple you make in a pond, how those ripples are going to go out and affect the world.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a good example of that. Probably sometime between 2000 and 2005, somewhere in that era, when Facebook was just beginning. I got a message from a girl that I had gone to high school with. You never know how you're going to affect people's lives. She and I were in a play production together in high school. And she told me that there was a day when we were all in rehearsals for some show that we were doing in our high school. And we were all backstage, fooling around like high school kids do. And that I had grabbed her and wrapped her up. We were by the curtains, the big curtains on the stage. And we kind of rolled ourselves up in this curtain, giggling and laughing. And that I kissed her. And She sent me this note saying that kiss made her understand what it was supposed to feel like when a boy kissed a girl. And that gave her the courage to go home and blow the whistle on an uncle that had been abusing her.
Wow.
And it changed her life. And it got that person out of their family lives and allowed her to move forward with her life. And I just sat there. When I read the note, I was absolutely shocked, because you don't realize the effect that you have on other people's lives.
Yeah.
Even something as silly as a high school boy grabbing a girl and giving her a kiss and ha ha ha, and let's go on with our day and forget about that entirely. 20 years later, I get this note saying, you changed my life with a kiss. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I was at a convention signing autographs as Chris Redfield, and this girl walked up to the booth, and she had tears in her eyes, and I said, honey, what's wrong? Why are you crying? She said, well, Resident Evil, this game, your game, was mine and my dad's father-daughter time. We would get together and play this game and laugh, and it was our thing. And Chris Redfield was his favorite character. He wanted to come meet you. He wanted so badly to come meet you, and he passed away a month ago. And he couldn't make it to the show. But here I am now meeting you. And it was just like my heart fell out of my body. And I was in tears. The girl who plays Jill Valentine standing next to me, she was in tears. And the girl was in tears. And the people behind her in line were in tears. And it's just, you don't realize. Here's this game that I did 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Had this effect on a young person, even someone who wasn't age appropriate to the time that the game came out. She should have been playing much newer games. But that was her experience. So you don't know. You don't know what effect you'll have. And what you're saying is so true. You think you're doing some little improv show at a Chuck E. Cheese in Tallahassee, but someone walked away from that show going, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Or, I thought I wanted to do that until I actually saw it. Now I want to have nothing to do with improv.
You saved me from the life of pain.
I don't know how many lives you save from doing that. But you get my point.
Yes. That's it for this interview with Joe Whyte. You can find some ways to track him down or listen to his Crimson Head Elder podcast in the show notes, as well as links to Steamy Monday, an album of improvised songs from the Impromptones, Joe's old musical improv group. Go visit him at a con or book him at your theater if you can, and as always, thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.